This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Riley Smith.
Well, good day and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. Today is Friday, September 9th, 2022. We're so glad you can join us today. In today's episode of Ag Matters PM, I talk with Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig at the Iowa Corn Growers Wetland Field Day in Waverly, Iowa. We also have a look at that ag weather outlook, but first, let's run down the markets.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
Well, we're at the end of another trading session today, and for a bit of analysis, we go to Nathan Cardwell of agmarket.net. Nathan, what did we see going on in the grains?
Yeah, it was a short week, but we had a lot of information that came through, or the markets definitely took off in the up direction. We had a pretty narrow range in corn, 30 cents. Beans saw about 60 cents. Wheat saw 60 cents as well. But end of the week here, markets are very excited and all closing up near the highs. Corn's up near 690. Beans are back over 14. Wheat's knocking on the door at 870, so definitely finding some strong movement here. All commodities as a whole was up today. Energy is stronger, metals stronger, softs were stronger. Most of the correlation, we do have the report coming up on Monday. We'll see if we get any surprises. Most of the estimates were right in line to what I think everybody was thinking with the timing of the report. USDA shouldn't make any too big of adjustments with it being too early in the season. Still want to see more harvesting completed before we start to make any real lasting changes to the numbers. But taking a look on Monday, we do have no real big surprises with the estimates. 172 for corn, looking still around above 151 for beans.
Right, and kind of how do we expect, of course, we can't predict perfectly the future for that, but how do we expect the markets to kind of handle that information?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if some of it was already priced in. We got the numbers. Everybody was anticipating lower yields. Some of the yields that we're hearing come through from guys that are already started are kind of below what they were expecting, below last year. So 20 to 40 bushels, kind of a big deal. We haven't heard too many guys that are doing above expectations or above last year. So it'll be interesting to see if the market's already priced in the numbers, or if we might get some sort of surprise.
Right, and what are we seeing on the other side of the marketplace in the livestock complex?
Taking a look at livestock, cattle has been somewhat of in a little bit of a range. They did find a little bit of a bounce from the negativity they saw. It's still, I think, trying to find out which way they want to go. They could be finding some support from the grains. Look, there's been a little bit of a disconnect between the cash and the futures price. Cash was down $1 today, so is cash going to go meet the futures price, or could they meet in the middle? But I think the grains going up might help them figure that out. Hogs as well, it was under pressure. Earlier this week, we heard about China lowering their demand by possibly 5%. Export numbers, we haven't been really getting to the numbers yet. Hopefully we'll have something next week. But that demand kind of, or lack of, pushed hogs lower. They did find support, though, right away and closed back higher, even closing the week back up over near 93. So that was positive to see. The disconnect between last month going off and this month might have helped some of that support and not letting those hogs go too far lower on that news.
Right, of course, and we'll probably see a little bit of a relaxation of demand as we're getting out of grilling season and kind of getting towards more of a lull point of the year. But when we get to the holidays especially, do we see demand pick back up again?
Yeah, there's always a competition during those times. Although, it's always going to be interesting to see what this dollar does. What's everybody's income? Do they have any extra spending to be able to spend on proteins? So I think that's going to be a factor. I think that played into today's movement with the dollar pulling back off of those recent highs we put in this week. The dollar's been very strong, and that could impact any type of consumer purchases moving forward.
Right, and you kind of touched on this a little bit, but of course the system for the export sales reporting service is still down, and that's been a little bit of an interesting situation because we don't have that information really available to process in the marketplace. They said it could be up relatively soon. So what's been the effect so far from that?
It's been kind of quiet, I guess. We've been getting 8 a.m. sales here and there from different countries other than China. So it will be interesting to see if we get this number, if it's a big number, and will that shock the market, or is that kind of already priced in for expectations? So we definitely need that number and that information. We need to know what our demand side is.
All right, Nathan. Well, lots of great information today. For those of our listeners and our viewers who would like to learn more from the folks at agmarket.net, how can they do that?
Yeah, thanks. The telephone number here, 844-424-6758.
All right, Nathan, it's been great talking with you today, and we hope to catch up with you again soon.
Excellent. Have a great weekend. Thanks.
That again was Nathan Cardwell of agmarket.net. We're going to go ahead and take a look at how those numbers close. That's courtesy of the folks at Bar Chart. December corn is up 16.5 at $6.85 even. November soybeans up 26 1/4 at $14.12 1/4. October soybean meal up 5.70 at $4.14.80. Soybean oil up 1.64 at $66.68. Chicago wheat up 42 3/4 at $8.53 1/4. Minneapolis spring wheat up 29 1/4 at $9.27 1/2. Kansas City hard red wheat up 36 1/4 at $9.29 1/4. And September oats up 17 even at $4.07 3/4. On the Merc, October live cattle up 1.30 at $145.67. September feeders up 67 cents at $1.83 even. October lean hogs up 1.05 at $93.17. Pork cutout down 17 cents at $102.77. And Class 3 milk up a penny at $19.80. And that's been a check of the markets here on Ag Matters PM. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break to hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, I talk with Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig at the Iowa Corn Growers Wetlands Field Day. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. Yesterday, I took the trip to Waverly, Iowa to the Iowa Corn Growers Association Wetlands Field Day, where they talked a lot about water and soil conservation practices, particularly how we can use wetlands to reduce soil and water runoff. At the event, I talked with Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig about how he wants to push this as a tool that farmers can use across the state to just kind of help in that effort. Well, we're here in Waverly, Iowa at the Iowa Corn Wetland Field Day, and of course, big guest here today is Secretary Mike Naig. First off, let's just talk a little bit about the importance of having an event like this to bring awareness to wetland conservation practices.
You bet. I think field days are really important because what you've got here is the landowner, the farmer. Mark Mueller is the one who's standing in front of this group explaining why he was interested in it, what the process was like from his standpoint. And that is so valuable because really what we're looking for out of a field day is that a few folks will say, I'm interested in that, tell me more. And if we can get that out of a field day, that is a tremendously beneficial thing. But I don't care if you're talking about cover crops or no-till or wetlands, having a farmer perspective where they can even say, hey, maybe I was skeptical about this, but then I learned this, and those things can be incredibly valuable. And so, of course, it's valuable for our team too to be here as well to provide the technical questions or answers and information, but also to then talk to folks who might be interested. So a very, very good day.
Right, of course, and we all know that farmers are the stewards of the land, and they're most in tune with what their land is like. And a big thing today was talking about how we don't want outside policymakers to come in and tell them what to do with their land. And of course, one of the ways to do that is to prove that with data, the ways that we're using conservation to make those changes. But you can have all the data in the world. If people don't know about it, you're still not going to see much progress. So, let's just touch a little bit more on how important it is to have that awareness, that people know that we're doing this and it's working.
Yeah, that's important on two fronts. One is, of course, these are the taxpayer of Iowa is investing in water quality work across the state of Iowa, and so it's important that we can show them the benefits. Of course, what we know about wetlands is the science shows us that they are effective in reducing the amount of nitrate that's in the water, and so that is how the taxpayer can understand that their money is being well spent, because this has an impact on water quality downstream. The second piece of that is so important in driving adoption of the practice, right? There's a lot of folks, I don't care if you're talking about cover crops or bioreactors, saturated buffers, or no-till or reduced tillage or some sort of nutrient management. Show me the results, I think, is so important. And here's the great news. We can literally bring you out to a wetland, show you what it looks like, show you how it works, and show you the results. The thing I love about a wetland is you can sample the water that's coming into it, you can sample the water that's coming out of it. You don't have to model it. You can just do a simple subtraction problem, and you know exactly what that did for water quality. So we need to make sure that we're telling those stories, both to the farmers and landowners who we want to adopt these practices, but also consumers and Iowans that know that these practices are working.
Right, and it's, these practices, it's plural. There's a lot of things you can do for this. And a lot of times what we see with policymakers is, they come in from outside the state and they give us one thing. Right. They give a limit on how much fertilizer you can use. They limit how much you can spray. And you can't just have a one-size-fits-all solution. There's a lot of things you can do here, and this wetland is one of the things that farmers can add to their toolkit and adapt it to their operation.
Amen to that. This is one of the hallmarks of Iowa's nutrient reduction strategy, is that it respects the variability of Iowa's landscape from border to border and river to river. We have a difference of soil types and land formations and different operations, right? So when we developed the strategy, we laid out management practices that farmers can use in fields. We looked at land use. How can you seed something down, or certain ways of farming that you can adopt in your operation. And then, of course, there's these edge of field practices, structures that we go and build. Now, there's multiple ways to layer those benefits or those practices together to get to where we want to go on protecting soil and water. It's up to the farmer, and it's up to us and our partners in conservation to figure out what works best on that particular farm. That's what we're working on. That's what the 350 plus partners that we're working with on conservation are doing every day across the state of Iowa. That's something that we can be very proud of.
Right, and you mentioned as well when you were speaking earlier through the event, in 20 years we've got over 100 wetlands into the state. Great accomplishment. And you talked about how we need to increase that. We need to go even further. What's the future look like for this kind of program?
This practice in particular, you're right, we're sitting in just over 100 of these, 115 or so. It's taken us many years to get there. We're only building a handful a year. This year we're looking at building 6 to 8. Next year we're pushing that number. We want to get to 30 a year. We want to get to 50 a year. We want to go beyond that. You've got to build the capacity to do that. We need contractors who can build them, engineers who can design them, and of course we need more farmers who are willing to say yes, and landowners who said, here, we've got a spot for it. So what I see, though, is that we are changing the trajectory of this, adopting this practice. We've got 75 wetlands under development that'll get built in the next few years. Again, 75 in the next couple of years. It's taken us 20 years to build just over 100. So that's just one little example. We had 10,000 acres of cover crops before the nutrient reduction strategy was started. Today we're sitting at 3 million. We're not satisfied with where we are with that either, but we're heading in the right direction.
Of course, as well, we talked about, kind of a kick in the butt was that Des Moines lawsuit, kind of really get us to take it seriously and know that we got to make these changes. And, one of the things that I think is most admirable about that situation is that instead of turning it into a battle between Des Moines Waterworks and, agriculture, we turned it into more of a cooperative effort, learning from each other, hearing each other out, and seeing what we can do to kind of meet both sides. So, how is that effort kind of going so far, and where can we see that go in the future?
The lawsuit was really unfortunate. It did take some wind out of the sails of the conservation effort because it was adversarial and it was a misguided legal endeavor that, frankly, the courts threw out, and that was right that it should be. It was unfortunate because it's the wrong way to do this. And now since then, we've got great examples of where communities, urban areas and rural areas are working together. Cedar Rapids is a prime example of where you've got a city and a county that are working upstream because they're looking for the nutrient reductions that we're achieving with these practices, but they're also interested in the flood reduction as well, because a wetland will also hold back some of the bounce of floodwater. We're seeing that spread, though, to other communities as well, willing to work upstream. Even now, we have a partnership on cover crops with Des Moines Waterworks. I would much rather work collaboratively with folks to actually get practices done rather than trying to use the courts or regulation to achieve this. There's a better way to do it. Let's build a culture of conservation, not a culture of regulation. That's how we'll do this for the long run in a way in Iowa that'll last for generations.
Right, I think that's a good note to end on. There's always a better way to do it, and we're always looking for that effort. So, thanks for taking the time to visit with us today, Secretary Naig. Hopefully you got your fill of ice cream today at the 29th day of the Iowa State Fair, as you said it. And, good luck as we continue to work for soil and water conservation.
I'm excited, and judging by the interest and the way people have stayed around and the conversations that we've been hearing, field days like this are critically important. I want to thank Iowa Corn and everybody who's been a part of this. We need to see even more of these types of field days happening across the state.
That again was Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig. As for right now, let's go ahead and take a look at that ag weather outlook. Well, today was another great day. We have some awesome weather, highs in the 80s, and it's just generally beautiful conditions. Now tomorrow we could see a lot cooler temperatures and a bit of rain as the Hawkeyes continue to whoop the Cyclones for yet another year. But as for right now, let's just go ahead and take a look at what the National Weather Service has in store for the next 24 hours. As you can see from the National Weather Service, that fall weather is trying to sneak in a little bit early. Today we've got mostly sunny and warm conditions across most of the state with cooler temps and storms possible in the northwest, highs ranging from the low 70s to upper 80s. Tonight will be mostly cloudy with chances of showers and thunderstorms in the west. Lows overnight range from the low 50s to low 60s. And tomorrow, expect rainy and cool conditions in central and west Iowa, and sunny and warm in the east. Perfect conditions for some Cyhawk football, with highs ranging from the upper 60s to low 80s. And taking a look at the affiliate weather map, as you can see for tomorrow, Cherokee will be mostly cloudy and rainy with a high of 69, Shenandoah rainy and 67, Des Moines rainy as well with 69, Waterloo rainy and 69, Albia partly cloudy and 77, and Clinton is looking to be sunny with a high of 82. For more detailed forecasts in your part of the state, make sure to check in with your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate. And that's been a check of the Ag Weather Outlook, and that also brings us to the end of this episode of Ag Matters PM. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. You can also follow us on social media at Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok, and you can find all of our video content as well as previous episodes of AM PM on our YouTube channel. Don't forget as well our free Twice Daily Market podcast on Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. From the IARN studios in Des Moines, I'm Riley Smith. On behalf of Mark Magnuson and Dustin Huffman, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.